Welcome back, guys. So, I have to admit to you, I've been bad. These past few days, I've had the flu, which was super fun. So I've been playing a lot of Minecraft, but I have really not been feeling well enough to record. My voice has been next to nothing and interspersed with a lot of coughing. So I've made quite a lot of progress and not recorded any of it to show you. So I think it is long overdue I take you all on a tour of our new base. So, we start here in a lovely portal area. This is in the Redwood Forest, where you might recall there's that obelisk over there, and just over the mountains, as we had planned, from our base. And we enter through this tunnel. You can see I've got that lovely banner that I snagged from the Crimson Cultists. I've decided to make these Crimson Cult banners my own, even though they're some sort of strange, warped, evil organization. I don't much care. Their banners are lovely. And then over here we have a little bridge over our river. Down there you can see where our clams are still housed, even though we will move them in the not too distant future. And when we come through here, so this used to be a giant hole in the ground. And you can see now that it is not. So, let's start from the beginning. First, I made this dome. This dome covers the whole area, and I rounded out our quarry hole. Then we can see we have three major levels here. We have this top level, where I have not yet carved any rooms, because it just hasn't been necessary yet. We have this intermediate level, where we have some rooms all carved out and ready to be occupied by gadgetry of any sort we need. And the bottom level, we have this sort of island here with some water around it and these really large rooms that I may split up, or I may just use for mods that require a lot of space. I'm not quite sure yet. And you see that I've put some foliage around. I have some glass panes here. These are just chiseled panes. I have these banners from Thaumcraft. That actually took a lot more time than you'd think, considering they're just decorative banners. If I were a developer for Thaumcraft, I probably would have made them just a, vanilla crafting recipe, but they take some depth in Thaumcraft. And then we've also got magical lamps which light everything up on the outside here. On the inside, I'm still using the Practicalities shimmering spots from the luminous rod. What else do we have? If we come along here, we can see we have on either side a large flowing waterfall with some canal channels and bridges over them that I've used some of the Growthcraft ropes to make kind of little rope handles on. I rather like that. So that's really most of what that is. Up here, I have my trophy storage and throne room. As I said, I've made the Crimson Cult banners into my own, and made myself a Bloodwood throne. Unfortunately, I'm bugged at the moment. I bet if I logged out and in, I'd be able to sit on this and look at the view. Lovely. Then I've also put these display pedestals, or showcase pillars, all about, with a lot of my most prized, mostly because of sentimental reasons, possessions. And some will be replaced as we get better trophies. But I've got some of these things that we got from the roguelike dungeon, the Naga head. Actually, this was a gift. I did not get that myself. In the back, I've got all my King Slime stuff I got from killing King Slimes. As you can see, I've killed at least 4 of them now. And our original hang glider. How could we forget? I've got some diamond horse armor, because why not? And a ghast spawning egg that dropped from some miniature ghast that I killed, and I just think it's such a rare find. Had to display it, at least for a little while. Then I have here some of our earliest tools, or most used, including our original mass excavation tools, and that one that we never really used, that rapier there. And then all sorts of different heads that we've found. So this will get added to as we find more and more stuff that we might want to place here in our trophy area. But in addition to that, I have also prepared the stage for what will become Power Gen. Upon this platform, we are going to build a big reactor. And gosh, is it going to be big. It's going to be 9 by 9 by 3 on the outside dimensions. It's going to be cooled both by resonant ender and by gelid cryothium. A total of 21 fuel rods. We're going to start it as a passively cooled reactor. That is, it will generate RF directly. But because I'm thinking ahead, once we get that up and running, we can eventually convert it to an actively cooled reactor, which will produce steam that we can feed into a turbine to make our power. To start out, it should make us somewhere north of 4,000 RF per tick. Once we get a turbine up and running, and by the way, it'll make enough steam to keep 2 maximally or optimized turbines running full time. Once we have enough, we'll, I believe, easily make 21,000 RF per tick per turbine. Yeah, that's going to be crazy. So, now you're seeing one of the effects of the Thaumcraft research that I had to do to get those banners. Occasionally we will get warp effects, the darkening of the screen, strange messages in chat. Yeah, Thaumcraft has gotten a little nasty since 1.6.4, the last time I did it. Okay. So, this is always tough. It's It's not working. Ugh. I can never get through that floor reliably. One moment. I am still recovering from the flu. I need to cough quite badly. Whew. Okay, very professional. Okay, let's find our way out through the caves. I don't know if we will have an easy time doing that. I never really have gotten the hang for these. Oh, wait. We find the water. We follow that. Aha! We got it. Bam. Okay. I need to make an actual exit for that. Yeah. Okay. Let me show you a few of the other things I've done. One is this lovely tool here. It's called a poly tool. The poly tool is made with a lot of carbon nanotubes. You'll remember those. Last episode we were turning trees into carbon nanotubes for diamonds. This episode we can see that I've completely changed the process. Now I'm growing pumpkins. And the pumpkins are getting processed. When a pumpkin's decomposed, it makes, I don't know, some sort of pumpkin compound, which I then break down again by cycling it through, and it forms carbon, also hydrogen, and oxygen, which I could just as easily be sending to a trash can, considering the fact that I don't expect I'll be using them a lot. But, I don't know. Saving them for now. Once they become an issue, if these deep storage units start getting full, I will take care of them. So as you can see, to do this, we just need to shift-click. It's going to quickly fill up these slots again with the carbon, and we grab 3 of the nanotubes. For every 3 nanotubes that we can get a diamond. Or, if, as you saw, we got 4 stacks, then we get a poly tool. The poly tool is cool. It acts as both a sword, although only at +4 attack versus +18 attack with our Reaper. It also mines everything. It acts as axe, shovel, pick. But what's nice about it, what I've found is nice, is that it mines at the same speed whether you are flying or whether you are standing. And that alone is enough to have it replace my Diamond Zane on my hotbar. But, okay. When you right-click with the poly tool, it opens this menu. If you put stacks of any element in, it gets added here to the poly tool. And different elements have different effects when added to the poly tool. So, for example, helium, which we've got a stack or 2 on, floats enemies away when we hit them. So when we hit an enemy, there's a chance they'll float away. I've found they mostly hop into the air, but it can be a little bit useful. It delays them from getting towards us, at least. We can behead enemies. Let's see, we get more drops from coal and iron. Among other things, it mines whole veins of ore. And also, when we mine, there's a chance that it'll drop a torch at our feet, which is super nice. Oh, that's a little bug. I was using Opus earlier, which is a server management tool, to try to figure out the sources of lag on the server. And that block is apparently somewhat laggy, but not that bad. But it's still highlighted from that tool. Anyway, other things I've done include just making the crafting benches for Galacticraft. Some of the other people on the server have gone ahead and... Oh, I have a ton of nanotubes stored up because it takes power to turn them into diamonds. So it takes a little while for this machine to fill up again. So I have quite a few diamonds, 35 right now, but I've also been using a lot. So I'll show you what I've been using them for in a moment. But yes, so I've got some of the basic Galacticraft machines, circuit fabricator. I've got this refinery that I was using to refine oil into gas, or into fuel. I've done that now, and if you look, I've got nearly 7 full drums of fuel, which will make it so that when we eventually do decide that we want to go into space, it will be very easy to do so. What else has changed around here? I've still got my refinery, breaks down armor. This is another Galacticraft machine that makes plates. I've added some Enderflux crystals, and they're all wacky in the direction they're oriented, but that's okay, because we will move into our base proper soon enough. Let's just see if there's anything else that I really should point out to you while we're here. Again, I am sorry that none of this was on camera. I know that that's... I feel like I'm being an awful host. I feel like, in part, my role for you is a host. I invite you to join me. And then I have to make sure that you enjoy the experience. But while I was sick, I kind of shut my doors and said, no, you cannot come into my Minecraft playing, I guess. Okay, the metaphor breaks apart. Forgive me, I'm still a little sick. Okay. I made a hand pump. It's pretty cool. If you've got like a drum in your inventory, you can run around and suck up liquids just by clicking on them, and they'll go straight into the drum. So it's a super awesome way to take care of like huge pools of some fluid that you don't want to just destroy with a sponge. Oh, yeah, of course. The other thing I did was make all things necessary for our reactor. So, lacking anything else to show you here, and gosh, I apologize in advance, but at some point, I know, like, it's been a couple days, and as I said, I've been sick, so I've been playing Minecraft nonstop, and most of that was making the base, just building all of that. Some of it was advancing certain techs, though, and I honestly don't remember what other techs I've advanced. So at some point, someday, I'm going to start talking about a tool that I have not introduced. And if you would like me to tell you about it in the next episode after you see this, I'm being confusing. Anyway, if I start talking about something and assuming that you've seen it and you haven't, just leave me a note in the comments. I will be happy to explain how it works, how I did it, so that you know and you don't feel left out. And I'm sorry that I have to do that, but not too sorry. I mean, come on guys, I had the flu. It was awful. Okay. So, big reactors. I had originally decided, and heck, I might have even mentioned it, that I wouldn't be using big reactors in this world. Because, this is a thing that happens. Sometimes, when I use my key, it does not load the world I'm teleporting to. Super annoying, have to go back and forth a couple times. Anyway, I decided that I wasn't going to use big reactors in this world, because big reactors can be kind of boring. You build a reactor, you add yellorium, you're done. But, first of all, their power drew me in. Bar none, they're the best source of RF power in the game. But Also, there are some intricacies to the mod. You have to use certain coolants and pattern things in the correct way to get optimal efficiency for your reactor, and I can dig on some of that, like, really crazy sort of optimization. And so I've done a lot of research. I've done some testing. There's actually a tool out that allows you to test big reactors designs. And ultimately, I think I've got a design picked out for us that's gonna really strike a good balance between not being just super excessively large, but also having like some really good power behind it. So why don't we get started? I mentioned it briefly a moment ago, but there are two major... I just realized I don't have a power tap. That is something we will have to remedy. Anyway, I mentioned that there are two major types of reactors. There are actively cooled reactors and passively cooled reactors. An actively cooled reactor is cooled by water being pumped into it, which it then converts to steam. These are more advanced, because you then need to take the steam, put it into a second structure. If you're using big reactors, it would be a turbine, but it could also be any other mod that can take care of steam and turn it into power. And then that second device is what actually creates your RF. Let's see, that is 7 by 7, so we need to go one larger even. Okay. The second, the more basic form for a big reactor, ooh, don't want that, is a passively cooled reactor. In a passively cooled reactor, the RF is sorry. The RF is produced directly by the reactor. And so that's what we're going to start with, but the design that I've chosen is good because it can easily convert between the two. So as we advance in our power demands and our technology and our resources, we'll be able to turn this into a steam steam generating reactor, which is good. Okay. Let me look for one moment. I actually need... there we go. I've brought up my notes on my second monitor to actually remind me the pattern that I need to put these in. So, every reactor is a giant multi-part. It's made of a couple things. First, you've got the reactor casings. Those are just the housing for the stuff you're actually interested in. Next, you have fuel rods. These are going to hold the fuel, yellorium, and allow... Sorry, one moment. Oh, I was very eager to record this episode because I have made so much progress, but as you can hear, I am not quite well yet. But yes, you have fuel rods, which are actually sort of in the lore of the mod. They're where the reaction's actually taking place. On top of the fuel rods, you have to place control rods. These allow you to modulate the power of each rod. And then sort of in between all of this, you have to put coolant. So air can be a coolant. It's not a very good one. But you can also use things like resonant ender and gelid cryotheum. Now, I have done a lot of research on this, and by that I mean I still have very little idea the specific ways in which one or the other of these is superior. I just know in this design, this is what works. Gelid cryotheum goes in these holes in the middle. That will then cover up with reactor casings. You can see anywhere the gelid cryotheum is, you get snow on top. That's cool. Someday if we want a lot of snow, maybe we'll use that to our advantage. The other thing we're going to need is a reactor controller. This is where we're actually going to control the reactor. And then we need a bunch of stuff. Uh-oh. Oh, okay. Good. Then we need a bunch of stuff that I forgot to craft. So let's go take a look at what is required for that. So around the sides here, you can either put more reactor casings, or you can put something called reactor glass, which allows you to see the inside of the reactor. It's much more aesthetically pleasing, so obviously I would like reactor glass if I can at all. Oh, awesome. Okay. That is good. Now, before I make that and get rid of all my reactor casings, there are other things we're going to need. We're going to need a reactor power tap, because this is how we actually get power out of the reactor. Kind of important. Don't know how I forgot that. I also am going to want another one. It's always good to have two because you can use one for main base power and the other could, for example, power a refining device that is going to become necessary at some point. I like to have two. The other thing we're going to want is a reactor access port. We're actually going to need two of them. Which means we'll need another chest. Interesting. Which we can make with spruce wood. Hooray! So, access port. One of these will be an input port, one will be an output port. These we will use to get our fuel in and out of the reactor. Obviously, an important thing that I had neglected. The rest of these, not all of them. Wait a moment. Not all of them, only the ones around the side. So, we have in the middle there, so overall it's a 9x9. Then in the center we have a, a 5x5 area, so we need casings to fill in the gaps. This will all become apparent when we actually do it, but let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 14, 24. So we need to reserve 24 of these. Okay, and then we can convert the rest of these with glass into reactor glass. And we will have to come back because we used more reactor pieces than, well, let's see, power tap, so that cost us net 3 each, and this cost us net 3 each, so 6, 12. So we need 12 more reactor glass. So for that, we will make 1, 2, 3 groups more of the reactor casings. Oh good, we will have just enough glass. Cool. Okay, let's do this. So, as you can see, it's all vanilla crafting recipes. Some of them are kind of a couple steps deep, but that's okay. With our AE system, it's pretty easy to deal with that. Okay, now I'm considering, do I want all of my input and output stuff here on the back, or do I want it on the sides? Oops, okay. So here's what I'm thinking. Based upon my knowledge of what we are going to eventually need to happen here, we are going to want one place okay, I'm not going to worry too much about it for the time being. Let's just put them all in the back. They're easy enough to swap in and out. So we'll have our 2 reactor access ports there. Actually, I think in the most recent version... Oh, okay. I want some of this to be on top. That way... Oh, if I do that, then we won't have... okay. I'll put these on top. Closer to the center, closer to where we'll want to use them anyway. So, power... Yep. Yep. This is where these are all going. Oh, and you see the effect of the poly tool. Sometimes it drops a torch. Okay. We're going to go power taps and access ports. Yes, the snow will end up there, but once we have actual cables and stuff coming out of those, it won't be an issue. Okay. So then we can take our reactor glass, put it around like this, and yes, as I said, we're not going to have quite enough reactor glass. We need 4 more, because 4 of these get converted. Okay, let's do that very quickly. Just takes glass. Oops, just glass. Heck, we even have enough. If barely. Okay. There we go. Okay, we put the glass down. Now, I have these buckets of resonant ender. 20 of them. And that is because we place our resonant ender here in the sides, and it is going to flow. I haven't found a great answer on whether I want it flowing or not, like whether that counts, but the calculator I used indicated that I would need all 20 buckets of resonant ender, which is to say fill the sides but not the corners with resonant ender. So that's what I'm going to do. And hopefully I don't mess up and lose a bucket, because it's not super expensive, but it is annoying to get more. See, oh, okay, I can use NEI to tell me, like, there we go. Now that has resonant ender in it. That has resonant ender in it. There we go. And just have to do this side. Now, if I had been a very clever man, what I would have done is I would have grabbed a stack of Yellorium while we were back in our Spectre Dimension area last time. Apparently I am not so clever though, so once we finish this we will have to make a quick jaunt back and forth again in order to... Okay. So we've used all that, so now we will close all this off. Oh, more Thaumcraft effects. That's fine. Awesome. Our calculations were correct. We had exactly enough of everything, eventually, to do what we wanted. There is our reactor. You can see that as soon as we placed that last block, it all came together. Some of the textures changed. And here is how we control it. Here's its GUI. You can see right now it's offline. If we grab some fuel, and the fuel for this is Yellorium ingots. Oops. So if we grab the fuel and head back, okay, we cannot put the fuel in here. That's why we have these ports. So this is an input port. We input Yellorium. It gets added to most of those cores. You can actually see from certain angles that the cores are now full instead of being clear and empty. And we're also going to make this into a waste outlet port. Input, output. It looks like maybe when the whole thing is multi-block, doesn't count the cryotheum as cryotheum anymore. That or it's slower. So, guess we won't know for a while. So, this is where the power will come out. Both of these, actually. Oh, okay. Still counts. So, what we can do is turn the reactor on. And it's going to slowly gain heat, seen here, in the casing and the core. That heat is going to convert Yellorium into power, and as the heat rises, our power output will rise. And it will automatically, actually I don't know if when the buffer fills, so you can see it has a 10 million RF buffer. We are making a ton of power right now. If it eventually fills, I'm not sure if it automatically puts things down, down-regulates things. We can also regulate it by changing the state of these control rods. And in this particular reactor, I have found if we bring these rods to 51%, we will be using a very small amount of fuel, 0.06 millibuckets of this yellorium fuel per tick. Will still make more than 4,000 RF per tick. So I think that'll really serve us well. Okay, as you can see, the buffer is full. It does not turn itself off, so you do need to be aware of that. One thing I might end up making is a redstone port for it. You can basically have it turn itself off when the power gets too full, which I might do until we're able to sort of consistently use as much power as it's generating, or at least until we can generate fuel infinitely. I mean, once you have infinite fuel, you might as well burn it. Okay, so between this episode and next, I might run some of the wires for this. Probably I'm going to send power conduits out to sort of every corner of the base, through the walls where at all possible. And next episode, I think we'll work on getting our applied energistics system working in the base, because that is really the last hurdle to really moving in here. I would really like to live in this grand, secluded, sort of monastic valley that I've made for us. I just can't do it until I can move my machines here. Step 1 for doing that was getting power. Step 2 is getting the applied energistics system here and working. So, next episode, join me for doing that. Okay, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.